Grab your popcorn and snacks. Find a comfy spot, take a seat or lie down, and let me transport you to a place of fantasy, ghost stories, ancient legends, odd creatures, alien encounters, and other magical topics. You may even decide to join the conversation. From faraway lands to your own backyard, with a small dash of pixie dust. Turn out the lights and open your minds. The journey is about to begin. Hey, happy Friday, everybody. How's everybody doing? I think I heard you say great. You're going to be hearing music through the window. My neighbor likes to have parties every Friday and Saturday night. So, no big deal. He just does that. Pretty soon, if things work out this week, I'll be having things going on every Friday night. Let me check some messages. Okay. Get my phone shut down. Okay, welcome. Anyway, my name is Charlotte. I'm going to be your host for the next half hour or so. I'm also the owner of the California Haunts Paranormal Investigation Team, based out of Sacramento, California. We're 45 strong up and down the state, which means if you think you have a paranormal need, we can help you out. It may take us a while to get to you, but we definitely will help you out. Hey, Jerry Baser, how's it going? Anyway, the way to find us, I'm just trying to get organized. The way to find us is just Google California Haunts Paranormal Investigation Team, and we'll just pop up. We're like everywhere. We're on Facebook, you name it, TikTok, everywhere. Anyhow, tonight, it's Casual Friday with Nancy Matz. I was going to run the air conditioning today, but I don't think I need it in here. I have concerns about the other room, but it doesn't feel that hot yet. Probably tomorrow, because the house really hasn't had time to heat up. So probably tomorrow we'll do an air conditioning test, not so much with this show, but with a TikTok show to see how it's going to work out in here, because this is where we're going to be for the summer in here, for the tarot readings and stuff like that. So that's how that is. I have an old iPhone, and the thing overheats because I have to put a new battery in it, so it has issues. So last night I came out of the room and it was pretty hot. It was 87 degrees last night, and coming out of it with that room, and the phone was pretty warm to the touch, so it really concerned me last night. But we'll see. We'll see how I feel after we get done with this. Anyway, again, it's Casual Friday. Last weekend, we took you guys to the old city cemetery in Sacramento. Had something happen, and it was bizarre. And I think I'll talk to Nancy about that when she comes on. And it's my own fault. I'm going to be teaching psychic development classes coming up here, and it's something that I teach. Except I didn't follow my own teachings for this, because it shouldn't have. It should not have happened. It shouldn't have happened quite as badly as it did. But it did, so lesson learned, just be careful. I don't realize, since I've been doing tarot card readings, how open I really am to spirit type. So anyway, it's going to be an interesting evening, and we're going to be talking about the old city cemetery. A lot of interesting ghosts there, a lot of interesting stories that go with the ghosts. So let's bring Nancy in, and we can get the show started, okay? Here we go. Okay, let's try this again. No Nancy. Where'd it go? Come on. Why are we doing this? Okay, why isn't it working? Okay, let's try again.
Hello, everybody.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah, I don't know. Just to the left of the screen here, there's a box, and it doesn't show me at all. Usually every week it does. It just shows a red background. Um, I
You're
don't know.
there.
My
I
web
see you.
is working. Yeah.
I see you.
Well, we have another topic planned for tonight, and I called her up and I said, "Have you been able to in depth talk about the cemetery tour that you took last weekend?" And we both agreed. I have so many stories that I could parlay into this conversation. And I think as a platform here tonight, before it gets old news, that she needs to talk about a couple of things that happened last weekend. And of
Yeah.
course, I love this, and we talked about, but I believe that being aware and talking about this, um, I'm involved with some people right now where we're seeing spirit peoples, and it gets you comforted in the process of life to know that we have people around us. And when I can describe people, the people look at me like, Well, why don't we take another step? If that's grandpa or that's mother in the chiffon dress that she always wore in life, then how could I possibly make this up? So we take another step, cemetery. So someone said to me, um, why, or Shar said to me, why are they there in the cemetery? I have asked myself a lot of those kind of questions, but they know when family will show up or they can be recognized. They have access to time just like I can. And so a lot of times, not a lot of times, but I have actually been told, this gentleman said to me, well, I knew you were going to talk about me today, so I wanted to be here. Really? How did that happen? So when I talk to clients, in jest, I might say, if you want to talk to a spirit person, would you invite them to come? Like I'm always yelling at my mother, mother, mom, grandma, and I wonder at that moment they show up. Well,
Mm-hmm.
they can. There's a woman I'm going to read her book, Susie Smith. You look her up, she's wonderful, S-U-Z-I, Smith. And Professor Gary Schwartz, who does the double blind test and is inventing the soul phone, he was her godson. And one day I told him I wanted to read her books, and he was okay with that, but I didn't get her permission. Well, guess what? I was here about a year ago talking, Susie, I want, and all of a sudden she just, "Whoa, okay." And I heard this, okay, I go, almost audible, and she left. So let's apply to ghost investigation, the same principle. They know you're going to show up. How did that happen? Listen, if I had answers for all this, I'd have answers for everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and I don't want to have all those answers. Sometimes the mystery is as exciting as the storyline. So, Shar had this experience, and you wonder, and this is where it gets real tricky. Cemeteries can also attract those who had been buried there because they're emotionally unstable. They can also be attracted to where they saw and not remember a burial of someone they love, thinking that that person will be there. There's a lot of different reasons why people show up at cemeteries. I was doing a cemetery tour. We're talking about the Sacramento City Cemetery, 10th and Broadway, in downtown Sacramento, and Old Sacramento City Cemetery. It's what's called. At the time it was built, of course, it was not near the hub of the city at all. It was in the country. Now it's downtown, and a lot of people showed up. And this one fellow a ghost person showed up, and he said, I came because there were so many people here. Well, there's a phenomena of, it's like a county fair. You hear a lot of people going, you go, I wonder what they're going to do there. So then you want to go. You'll tell
Mm-hmm.
somebody or you'll see the exhibit. You'll go, oh, that looks like fun. So having an attraction attracts a lot of other people. And I remember doing a tour once when a lot of women, I'm a woman, I was attracted. What kind of thing are you wearing? That's fun. And women of different eras would show up with their partners, and men, uh, traditionally the garment would look the same decade after, but women's style changes a lot. I remember thinking these are different eras, yet they can see each other once they're in the cemetery because they want me to notice them. And so you get attraction of people being pulled to the cemetery. And you have to appreciate some of them I see there are in stages of profound grief, like the woman whose three babies are buried there. And in the same quadrant, very old quadrant, a man is standing next to a Bible. Boy, no, it's warm over here too, Char. It's 93 degrees. A statue. I know I want to say, but it's not making my lips very good. Anyway, he's standing there, a statue that he put, a pillar that he put next on top of his son's grave. He was just grieving, and he was grieving, and so it killed him, the grief. And other spirits can see that or feel that or have a perception of energy. When I show up, I say, well, who are you? And I'll ask, what did you look like? And sometimes they will show me as they might remember them. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
times people remember seeing themselves last when they laid in the coffin. So sometimes it's with the dancing lady. On the other side, there's a John
Yeah.
Betancourt director to the lady. And I look down and I go, there's this woman going da 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 da, and she's got this pretty dress on, and she's submerged halfway into the dirt. It's like up to her thighs, and I'm going. that is the strangest thing I've ever seen, you know. And John Betancourt, he said, well, let's go over there and look at their see what that. And she died Christmas of some year, and so she was dancing a Christmas dance, in which she got pneumonia and then a cold, pneumonia, and died. It was at Christmas time. She got sick really quickly, and they died suddenly. And so she was dancing her Christmas dance, but for some reason, that's where she was happiest, and her death date was Christmas. So she wanted to be recognized. I thought it was the oddest thing to see someone submerge into the ground. Wait, and people say to me, well, how tall is that spirit person? And I might be an inch off because I'm just seeing spirit people so many years. You kind of judge how. And then I once said, well, you're an inch off. I said, give me a break. There's no ruler next to these people. And sometimes they submerge into the ground. Can you imagine being a spirit person and you're dead about 10 years? And then someone says, well, stand next to your living relative and let me see how tall you are. And they go, let me think, how tall was I? What did it feel like? Even they can get lost in that detail. So Shar has an interesting story and we'll float back and forth. And please, if you have a chance to be in California, this cemetery has in the front oldest part at least 10,000 cemetery plots of all the early historians of California.
Hmm.
Amazing. And then, of course, they ran out of room and quickly purchased more land behind it. And the last time I found out, that was 2001, there was not then 10,000 burials in the back. Whether they took over other neighborhoods or maybe cremation is now interesting that people do that. I don't know, but it has at least 20,000. Go ahead, Char.
One of
Plots.
the things I saw when I was out there that I was surprised at is I didn't know how many, but I did see one grave that was 2021 out there.
Mm. In the front or back?
Some of those plots. That's right. That was towards the front. So that's got to be
Oh.
cremation. Because I mean they're all
Hmm.
packed back to back in there. So it's got to be like
Hmm.
cremation. But I didn't expect to see anything that that late in time in that particular area in the cemetery at all.
I'm going to go to a place that we talked to. I can't remember. There are, like John Sutter must have had family, and so
Well,
they might
yeah.
want to say, I'm going to be cremated. I want to be near my ancestor, John
Well,
Sutter. I
like
want to
John
be
Sutter
recognized.
Jr., Sutter
Right,
Jr.'s
right.
there.
So
So
the one for 2021 may be the relative of someone that
of
he
someone
was
that's
very
there, yeah.
next to.
Well, that's what I'm saying is that it's just it didn't it kind of blew me away because I don't remember seeing anything. When we were out there
Right.
all 10 years ago or whatever, I don't remember seeing anything that recent out there.
No, I
But I'm
never
seeing
did.
it now.
No.
Yeah, but
And
I'm
John
seeing it
Betancourt and
now out
I,
there.
we covered a lot of those tombstones in 6 years.
Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah, you know. So I
yeah.
learned stuff when I was out there. Boy, did I learn stuff when I was out there.
It was fun, very stressful. You better be confident. So I do what I do because I'm born this way.
Yeah.
And I've told people that I saw my dead father. I was 6 years old and he came to visit me after he was killed by a drunk driver. And he was always gone, kind of a thing. And he showed up, and I thought, God, he's pretty. 6 year old. Whether we,
Yeah.
oh, and I tell my grandma, oh, Daddy visited us last night, and of course it was like, oh, wonderful. Tell me about what my son said to you. Your dad. And so you get not used to it. You get to a place where you accept it better. And when I got back into high school, got to college, I was married, all these things would happen. Not seeing spirit people, but the abilities. Then cancer, divorce, I got into this right away and started seeing spirit people again. So stress can also allow you to turn the switches on to be able to see better. And
Mhm.
it's one thing to see them, it's another thing to um, figure out what they want.
Mhm.
And Shar and I have had conversations as well as I have with Matt Slozer and all these people I've had shows with, Sue Cook, um, Coop, and some other people. It's one thing to see them, it's another thing to figure out what they're about if they're emotionally healthy. Because I think sometimes spirit people become ghosties and then they goals. A gentleman
Mhm.
East Coast of a name I will not mention, I actually witnessed someone dying and after the last 4 or 5 years turned into a ghoul. Now, we would say that that person's a demon. I don't. Regret, sadness, um, and that's a statement I say to people. You can be bazillionaire, multi-millionaire. And this man was, all his journey was to make money, but he never spent time with his family. So he died in his 50s, and it's been really hard. So I am at a place where, and please forgive me if I step on someone's religious notes. I've been doing this too long to have never seen a demon,
Mhm.
ever. And I see so many levels of spirit kind to the point where I witnessed this individual. I can't say his name because he showed up here
Mhm.
because I called his name out. And he's connected to me and my client still. The story you wouldn't believe it. And it's just amazing to me that they're emotionally unhealthy. So you can find these people in cemeteries because they're looking for someone to help them.
Mhm.
And if you have problems with a spirit person, I always say to people, what if this an individual came to your front door and he was not stable? Would you let them
Mhm.
in your house? Would you let them in your bedroom? Would you let them make a mess in your kitchen? Excuse me, H, no. Treat them like they're living people. You get out of my house, you're not welcome. What do you think you are? Instead, they go, oh, I'm getting some attention. Oh, maybe they'll help me. Well, they can't. You can't hear them. I can sometimes, but sometimes they go blah, 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 so fast. You know, when you're talking to a spirit that's emotionally healthy because they are in the celestial levels, they come down and they try real hard to make sure I can hear. And they'll talk or they'll give me pictures so I can get good message. But a lot of times these people, all they do is reactionary, and then they want to talk to you, they want to give you a message, they want some help, and you don't understand them. They can get real short-tempered. Uh-huh, uh-huh. And they try to take over you so you can hear them better. Guess what happened to Shar? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah.
Hi, Jerry, I see you. Don't have my notes up there, so I'll be able to see the chat room. This talking about spirit kind and what I've done. By the way, I'm at 35 years now, officially as of May 4th. So, Shar, bring up your information on me. 35 years I've been doing this
I
almost
put
every day.
I say instead of putting it up there, I have put um more than 30 years. So I'm
Oh, no,
covered.
no, yeah,
Journalist. That's what we put. More than 30.
yeah, well, I want that clock to show the effort I've put into it. 35 years. That's unbelievable. People say, oh, I'm going to retire. I'll have 30 years, or I have 35. And I go, wow, that's amazing. I've worked a career, but and I say to people, but I worked 24 years before I got into this with Pacific Bell. 24
Yeah.
years. And then you add on 35. Oh, fudge. That wasn't, that's a long time, but I love this. It is tiring. I love it. And every time we talk of spirit kind, we get a new level of understanding, new level of appreciation, a new level of being in awe. Because if I do anything, I want people not to live desperate for life because there's nothing at the other side. You live life as I have late in the last 10 years. I gobble information, I gobble opportunities, not to please myself or to run around, but to become more knowledgeable. Because all
Mhm.
this knowledge, you can take it into spirit with you and return and do something else with the gift of life. And I am amazed how hungry I am. And keep your brain alive, everybody, too. But I want to go to Shar and her experience. I think you'll find this interesting. I also had the experience maybe three, four times, and I don't particularly like what she went through for myself. I do not like transfigurations or possessions. I like my own thoughts, my own mind. I do not want to share. I don't share. I don't share my body or my husband. All right, Shar, tell your story, then we can banter.
Okay, guys. Well, everybody knows that sees me on this show, the other show, TikTok, wherever. I have congestive heart failure. I mean, that's just a given. Okay,
Mhm.
things affect me, right? So I'm always thinking along that line. I also have horrible allergies, which probably doesn't help. So we go to the cemetery last week to do a little walkthrough cemetery tour with my following on TikTok, and it was started out fun. I got out there and got to test out a new piece of equipment that I have. It's a 360-degree spinner for my phone. It picks up on my face. So everything was working fine. I set it on the hood of my car. It got really windy, so I was using
Oh,
my other
yes.
headset, and people could hear me really good. So I was happy with that. Experiments, right? And this thing was cool. I walked in a horseshoe formation around my car, talking about talking about the graves and stuff, and people could see the graves behind me. It worked out really well. The thing followed me. It's kind of creepy though. It's kind of like Hal the computer, in
Yeah.
2001. Dave, why are you going that way, Dave?
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't
What are
go
you
in
doing,
there, Dave.
Dave?
Yeah, what are you doing,
You
Dave?
can't do
That's
that,
what it,
Dave. I love that movie.
that's what it reminds me of when it follows me. Where are you
Well,
going?
they don't know what the name of that movie is. What was it called?
2001: A Space Odyssey.
Yeah, that's it.
Hal,
It was
Hal sees
wonderful,
everything.
everybody.
That's what this thing reminds me of. Where are you going, Charlotte? Why are you walking that way? That hurts me. Don't go that way. So yeah. So it worked out. Disconnected from that. Everything was fine. I was breathing really well. And I picked an area of graves where back in the day, we don't do it anymore as a team, but we were assigned 12 plots out there. Because originally with the cemetery, like, what was it, 12, 15, 12, 15 years ago, right? There'd been a lot of damage in there. People, for some
Well,
reason, want to go
well,
through,
that's why they hired me in
yeah, and
'95.
kick these things over,
A lot of
and mess
damage.
up the grave sites. So part of what we were doing was helping to beautify the cemetery. So we would go to Rite Aid, and Rite Aid used to have those cheap those cheap flower flats, and we'd buy those cheap flowers, and we'd beautify around the graves, and that was what we did. We'd go out there on a Sunday or Saturday.
Mhm.
So I picked the area that we would go out to, and that included the firefighters memorial. And there's a beautiful firefighters memorial. There's a big bell there, on the standing hall, or whatever they call it, on call. There's a name for it. And so I thought, okay,
Oh,
why don't we
good.
walk
On
down
call.
there? Yeah, why don't we walk down there, and we'll go in, we'll just be right around the edge of it, and I'll talk about the firefighters group. Now this is me, okay? This is my current situation. I have an iPhone that's like 800 years old. Okay, it's an iPhone 11.
800. Okay. Middle
The thing
ages. All
works great.
right.
The camera's and then I have my new cell phone, which I'm not going to say what brand it is, but let's just say I thought I was getting an Android, and I have a knockoff Android from Korea. Okay, we'll just leave it at that. So
Yeah, don't say it.
the camera bites. Okay, so I'm still running my antiquated iPhone, which the front face thing is coming off on one side because it's been dropped a couple of times. Blah blah blah. Okay, so I don't have internet capabilities on that. Okay, I have it on the new phone. So here I am. I've got a duffel bag, on my hip. I've got my new phone is my hotspot. Okay, so I have to have my new phone on to have the hotspot for my iPhone. Okay, in the meantime, I want to make sure that I don't run out of power, so I've got my power brick, and so I've got it plugged into both phones. So I'm walking around carrying two phones,
Yep.
making sure I have the coverage. Okay, I have my inner ear. Okay, so I've got balance I'm dealing with. Anyway, so I'm maneuvering by there, and everything's going fine. And I'm talking, we're on the outside the main fence out there at those graves, and so I'm talking about the graves, and these are firefighters. It goes back to the 1900s, even 1800s. Blah blah blah. And I see that the gate is open, that I can actually walk up into that area.
The archway had a cage.
Yeah,
Had
the
a.
archway is open. Yeah, to go up in there, because I was
Mhm.
telling everybody about the orbs, because that's one place. I'm very on the fence about orbs, and I can tell you that that's one place where I've been out there with my team psychics, and we've been able to get really good orb shots that are right above the tombstones, where these firemen are directing us to the tombstones. So I was telling
Mhm.
everybody this. So I'm climbing up there. I'm trying to get up there without falling and trying to drop in my phones, and all this is going on. So I'm going up there, and I get in there, and I start walking around, and I'm doing okay. I'm looking at different graves, going, "Oh, this guy was from Ireland. He died in 1871." Blah 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 blah. We're just looking at the graves. We're just looking at the graves, and I'm talking about the orbs. And so we get done. I step down. Everything's going fine. I start to walk away, and I start coughing. And it's weird because my breathing is fine, my heart is fine, there's no pitter patter going on, but I can't get a word out without in the middle of it. And so I thought, okay, maybe it's allergy. So I'm trying to, and it's not allergy because my eyes aren't watering, right? If my eyes were watering, it's allergy. So I'm thinking, this is really weird. And so I continue my little tour, and they actually put, you'll like this, Nancy, they put historical plaques in there now
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
certain people.
Tell
So I'm
me.
going
Yeah.
through, going to these historical plaques and showing people, showing them where the babies are and all this. And I can't talk, though, because every time I say something, I cough. And I'm going, what is going on? And I'm walking through, went all the way over to where John Sutter Jr.'s thing is, and thought, okay, well, we're going to go back up 2 rows away to look at that really cool. There's a mausoleum there, well, not a mausoleum, but a crypt there that has stained glass on it, so that in the mornings when the sun comes up, the sun comes through the stained glass. So I took people up that way. In the meantime, I can't even talk because I'm coughing. I'm sitting down, everything's fine, everything's cool, um, and it didn't occur to me what had happened as I'm walking through there. Okay, this is, like I said, this is my fault that it even happened. So we hang out for a while longer, and then my associate wanted to go see her mom and dad's graves over at Oddfellows, which is 2 cemeteries away. So I said, okay. So I'm still coughing as we're walking back to the car, right? And I'm thinking,
Yeah.
well, God, what is wrong with me? Is it my heart? But it's not my heart. I kept telling people, it's not my heart. Don't worry, I'm not having a heart attack or anything here. I don't know what's going on. Get in my car, and it stops. So I'm still leaning on, I'm still thinking allergy, right? I'm still thinking allergy, right? Right? So we get in my car, roll the windows down. We're driving, get lost in the cemetery. It's hard to figure your way out of there sometimes. We finally find our way out to go to Oddfellows. I get out of the car to help her find her family's graves. Not a problem. I'm walking around out there. There's no issue. Everything's fine. We go to dinner that night. Not a problem. We drive over to Citrus Heights with the windows down. We're on the road for like 30 minutes. No problem. So I come home and I'm thinking about this, and suddenly it hits me. I'm so tired. So I fell asleep around like 8 p.m. I slept 16 hours. The only time that ever happens to me, and I can attest to this because I read tarot at night, and if I'm not careful, I take what I call a psychic hit, where something will run through me or attach itself temporarily and move on. And I thought, I feel like I took a psychic hit yesterday. And then I start to think about this. Many years ago, when I first started doing this show right here, this was a TV show for public access. That's what we did. We filmed another paranormal team, and it was a California Haunts show. Okay, went to the Woodland Opera House with this other team. First time we ever went out, and there's one particular psychic on the team who channels. Well, they all channel, but I mean, she was one of these. She could walk across the floor, and she would change personalities. My first time out with her, I thought, oh my God, I'm out here with Sybil, and she was downstairs. I was up on the balcony with another one of the psychics on the team. And if you're listening, you can verify this for me. And someone was having trouble breathing down on the lower level. And I remember Anne, and they were coughing, and I remember Anne leaning over, and she goes, smoke inhalation? And it hit me. And I thought, oh my God, that's what it was. One of those firemen in that part of the cemetery attached to me, got into my body. It's the first time I've ever had anybody physically get into my body. Usually my stomach flips and then they're gone. But I've never had one get into my body and stick with me that long for like 30, 40 minutes as I'm walking through the cemetery. And it made perfect sense at that point, so I knew what it was. So, of course, I had to call Nancy to verify because I was like, maybe I'm reading too much into this, that's not what happened. But Nancy verified it. And it was like a 30-year-old firefighter that had attached to me. The thing is that I should know better, having done this as long as I have. And now that I'm opening up for tarot, I'm wide open. And I don't realize how open. Last time I went, I wasn't doing tarot. Okay, last time I was in that cemetery, I was just me, taking photos, doing what I was doing, But I'm wide open, and I have to remember that I'm wide open now, so I can read tarot. So that was my issue. That's my fault. I should have, you know, asked for protection before I went out, and went running around the cemetery. But I didn't do that. So that was an experience, and I mean, it was like 40 minutes of I would try to say a word and I would cough. I could not get a word out at all. without coffee.
So we understand everybody what's happened with her. And I think that we all experience this sometimes without realizing it.
Yeah.
You can do this with a living person also. And
Yes.
I'm very, very sensitive to the clients that I have in my life on a regular basis while they work problem out. And I can pick up amazingly. And I told one lady, she may, you know, anyway, I'm not connected to read somebody, I'm not in your space, but if you're
Mhm.
thinking of me, I'm going to pick that up. So
Mhm.
with the fireman who died in smoke, he wanted to be recognized. That's how
Yeah.
he passed away.
Yeah.
There, and I do pick up a younger man.
Mhm.
Um, it's awful to think how many ways people pass away.
Yeah.
When I was doing the tours, the fireman that got his head lopped off, in Char, where is this now? It's an underpass. It's a railroad trestle, and you dip
Right.
down.
Oh, it's not the
And
fireman. It's that's the engineer, the railroad engineer guy that got his head lopped off.
I don't know. He was
Yeah.
on a wagon, and
Yeah.
he stood up. He was 6 foot something,
Oh, maybe it was a
and
fireman because there was a railroad guy that got it too.
yeah, he
But
stood
yeah.
up, and head came off. And but this fella here, I don't mean to spook you out, but it's almost like I can smell the smoke from here.
Well,
I
that's the
wonder if we
thing.
called him.
He comes back,
Okay,
and
because I'm smelling the, and it's not paradise burning here because they're
because I
doing
have to be
controlled
careful,
burning. It's
like
not.
after doing this tonight, because the day after when I talked to my chat about it,
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
was the night I told you. Remember I told you everything got really weird with
Yes.
the that's the night it got weird, and
Hmm.
so I had to be really careful, and he does he wants that connection. He wants to be known. He wants to feel human again, and that's a lot of the problem. When somebody passes, and here's the thing: their energy that they felt here does not exist. It's like when Nancy talks about the cup of coffee, when all they want is a cup of coffee because they can't get that smell anymore, or that feeling.
Yeah.
There's an energy thing going on, and they want to touch you because they want to feel your energy. It's kind of like Polter. You guys laughed at movies laugh at like movies like Poltergeist when
Hmm.
Carol Ann, because Carol Ann had all that young energy. She was running around the house like she was charged up.
Absolutely.
That's what they want. They
Yeah,
want that energy.
they miss that.
Yeah,
I can't tell you how many times it's come up in a reading. And one of the favorite stories, I have so many stories that I keep repeating the same one. The woman came to talk to her dad,
yeah,
and she used to say that, uh, well, he said to me, give her a message. I go, sure. And he says, have a cup of coffee for me. And I thought, oh, is that a message? Like, and immediately she started crying. And it was because she made coffee in the morning and would make it and then sit there and wait for him to come down and they'd share a cup of coffee. The
yeah,
idea is that he missed the smell of coffee. And when you're drinking the coffee, you go, fresh coffee, oh my goodness. So where's that commercial? You take and you get that feeling, and that reminds them, oh, that's what it used to smell like. Oh, that's what it used to taste like. So they want you to mimic. Oh my gosh, I just had a memory. Okay, so Sunrise Mall 20 years ago, they used to have a smoke shop where you could buy cigarette cigars, right? And I was walking through the mall. I'm little, just going to the mall, and I kind of turn switch off on once in a while just to see who shows up. I tell you, I've never seen such a group of men spirits hovered around the door watching other men go in and buy cigarettes and cigars. And someone come out cigar and light it up. It was before all the regulations here. And the two or three, four men would be standing there not smelling it, but watching this guy. Oh, because you got all the flavored cigars, I guess. I, I thought, really? That's what they're here? Come back to smell smoke? Be reminded what it felt like to smoke cigars, which probably killed them. But then if you go to a restaurant, Char and I have talked about how many spirit peoples are at restaurants.
oh
Holy
yeah.
tomatoes. Tomatoes. Yeah,
Karen and I
tell
on
that
Fourth
one. Yes.
Avenue. Karen and I go to to Outback one night,
Hmm.
and
Yes.
she's so used to it, because she's been doing this so long. Me, I saw stuff. I've been seeing stuff all my life too, but I usually have a natural block that I don't, see, except now because of tarot. And I remember going to sit down to have dinner, and there was a shadow man standing at the window doing this, looking through the window at the
Yeah.
people that were eating. Because they want to see the food. Lori makes a good point. The fireman really likes me. Now that's a point that's true, and I can tell you this: different psychics, even Nancy, but different psychics that I've gone into that cemetery with will tell me something about my energy levels. That I will
Yeah,
get a conga line of people behind me following me around the
yeah, yeah,
cemetery.
yeah.
Yeah,
There's something to be said about people like myself. And someone asked me once, are you able to tell when somebody visits you, a spirit, not a spirit person, but a real person, who has the abilities or not? Absolutely, I can.
yeah, yeah,
And it's kind of like touching somebody with a big cotton ball around it. They're
yeah.
pliable, very thick. And so the upside downside to that is, I've raised kids. I've been around kids. I mean, I'm done with children right now. I love all the baby things on Facebook, of course. But I can be in a grocery store with 10 people in the whole store. And the minute that mom has that one child and they come up my aisle, that child, when we pass, will start yelling, screaming, and want my attention. Animals cluster to me continually. If I go somewhere, anywhere where there's animals, they try to get to me. What's that
She's like
about?
Santa.
I guess. Oh, maybe have a bite of that energy. And
She's like
and
the
it's not
Santa
like I'm
Claus.
not friendly. It's just that
Well, and
there's
that's the
some
thing.
kind of
That's like that
energy
all the
exchange.
time. Well, normally if I was like I said, it was my fault. I was preoccupied dealing with the phones.
Yep, yep.
Because normally when I feel them come near me, I can tell whether it's a man
Yeah,
or a woman by however heavy the energy is. I should
sure,
have
sure.
felt him, but I didn't feel him because I was too busy. I had like I said, one phone in one hand, one phone in the other, making sure we're still online, doing this, and so I totally blanked him out.
That's a really
And
good statement. Let
yeah,
me talk about that for a second. So in spirit kind, we've had, remember my truth, everybody, please. I actually had a passive aggression 20 some years back, 25, in which I saw myself in a past life in the Roman era. And
right.
I lived, I was a child, only child in the family, as far as I know, I was a male child. My father was a wheel wet maker, Wheel, and I was his child. And it was so real to me running on dirt with this wheel with a stick. And in some countries, they still play with kids with a stick and a wheel. It was so real to me. What unfolded is in my lifetime now, I am an athlete, and my preference, I'd like to get back into it. I've had some health issues we do when you get this age and get back into walking to running. I have a gym in my house. I've carried it with me, all my moves here, and my
Mhm.
second husband from illnesses. And so it was amazing to me that this happens. Point is, I am not that person. The likes
Yeah.
of that person. The spirit, the one that inhibits this piece of flesh
Mhm.
for this lifetime, is creating me to be, I have a consciousness and a personality and all this in spirit kind between lifetimes you can go back to the pure energy of being an orb or go to the celestial realm and be a past life
Mhm.
figurine you pick the ones that are stuck do not want to surrender that personality until
No.
they get satisfaction
Right.
or get validation or something they need from it. It could be
Mhm.
cigars, it could be, I told this story before. This happened. I was between marriages. I was dating. This was a friend of mine that took me to dinner one night, and we went out a few times. And it was at the Arden Fair Mall. We were going to see a movie, and they had a restaurant at that time. They probably still do. And we were sitting there, and he watches my eyes. You say, "Watch Nancy's eyes; they shift," you know. And this very large lady, spirit lady and the skinny little husband, they were arm in arm. They come and stand right next to our table. And she was really looking at what we were eating. No, I can't remember what it was, but I looked up at them and I said, "This is a private dinner. Do you mind?" And I tell people, I said, "It looked like she was going to die all over again." We got caught and they turned around and walked away. And she had the dress on of the 50s, like
Mhm.
a silk, a smooth material, heavier bosom, very large hip line, and he looked like someone that would be a mechanic, had kind of
Mhm.
rough looking clothes on, and they were really watching what I was eating. She was for sure because
Mhm.
she got
Mhm.
my attention. But I thought it was odd, pardon me, I shouldn't say it like that they were completely visible to me like every inch of her clothing and him. they were not done with life. They were
Right.
walking around watching people, watching
Right.
what they're eating. And I think that as with the man we're speaking of, caught in his death, he
Mhm.
can't get over it.
Yeah.
And Shar and I, if I were there, one of us would have been could have been me. And it's odd because I put my mind to you when that was happening, and it's almost like gagging me. I feel the smoke in my nose and my mouth. It's almost like, and we've had a lot of fires in Northern California. You know, we had one here in Oroville. I was actually evacuated when we had a fire at Hornbrook. I lived on Black Mountain, Hornbrook, California. I look it up, 3,000 elevation. They had a fire there and we were evacuated, but it wasn't long before that. We were breathing heavy smoke.
Mhm.
That's what I'm getting, a thick smoke. And you get
Mhm.
sometimes the smoke that's lighter. This was thicker. It's like thicker to me as though there was something burning that generated a different kind of smoke. So,
Mhm.
Sheriff, you remember that because it feels like it's encompassing. So this man died like that. I couldn't get out. I couldn't save. What's wrong? Why am I still smelling the smoke? So he's trapped in his world,
It's
not a
sad.
little,
Yeah.
very sad.
Very
So
sad.
it's too bad the time that that was happening, she couldn't have said, "I'm so sorry you died." And please remember this, everybody. And even though it's hard, you might want to say, "I am so sorry you passed away in the smoke." And I'm sorry that you weren't able to do what you wanted to do at that moment. Did you lose
Right.
somebody? Because clearly you were in the fire to do something other than take the fire out. And I also will say this. I was on vacation with my family members and went to Boston to see where and my granddaughter's going to go to school. And I picked up a Quaker girl and I called my friend Karen and I says, "Oh no." And she says, "You got somebody on you." Like, I know it's a girl.
Mhm.
And we had to tell her, "What are you doing here? Time to leave." And between the two of us, I can't remember the conversation. We woke her up. And sometimes you have to say, "Do you realize how long it's been you've been standing there waiting for somebody, or you don't have satisfaction?"
Mhm.
So if someone came into the front door and their face was covered with smoke and soot, you would say, "What do you want? You want my house? No, no. What do you got on your face? Well, how long you been dirty like that? Or what did you see? You treat them like people
Yeah.
because they are. They are."
Yeah. A lot of it, and like you say, the smoking inhalation. But it was weird, like I said. And then I had somebody the next day
Hmm.
in my chat tell me that my voice got lower too, which is
Ugh.
interesting because I didn't notice it, but it did get lower. Which I've seen Karen do that a couple of times and Sabrina, over the
Hmm.
years, where their voices change and
Yeah.
get lower. But one thing we teach in my and Jerry's in the chat room. So one thing I
Okay. Yeah.
teach my paranormal
And
investigators
Lori.
is it's okay. I mean, the energy thing is okay, but you can't let them do what what happened to me because it'll wipe you out. The idea behind the energy thing, in fact, when I start teaching the classes again, this is something I'm going to really, really teach hard, is that they can touch you, but only let them touch the tip of your pinky. It's okay. They want to feel that energy. Let them touch a little bit. Don't let them touch a whole lot because,
Well, it's hard to say. By the way, if you're going to touch me, just touch my little finger.
well,
What
you,
they
you can.
do, and I feel like happened to you, is he came right on your neck and your face.
Well,
He
he
was
got
like,
me, yeah, because I wasn't paying attention. Is what happened,
well,
and
that's the hard part
it
is
is what
to
it
pay
is.
attention to everybody's around. Yes, yes.
It is what it is
That's
on
the
that one.
hard part. The
That's
minute
my
you don't
first time.
feel alone, everybody,
Right.
if you feel like you're not there, wait a minute, one person, two people, one person here, some one piece of flesh. Wait a minute. And it's weird because I do believe spirit peoples can come and go. It
Yeah.
doesn't mean you are possessed. Doesn't mean let's call the
No, he
exorcist
was
thing.
just passing
No, no,
through,
no,
but
no.
I just happened
Passing
to be the
through.
bright. I just happened to be the bright light he was looking for at that moment.
And that's
I
true
call it the
too.
perfect storm. I call it the perfect storm
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
for him.
Well, that is true. I've been told a couple of times by spirit people that were in a loop.
Yeah.
They need to be rescued. And I said, what's this? Why you come around? I mean, I'm going to talk. Let's do this and talk to you. And they said, well, you have a bright light. Do you have a
Yeah.
lantern? Do you have a candle? And it's me. It's me. I go, how does that work?
Yeah.
I don't have answers. I don't know. They
It's
just
like
see
they're
a
in the
light.
dark. It's like you're wandering around the dark, and
Hmm.
then
Hmm.
Nancy or I show up, or somebody, Dan Bender or whoever, talented psychic shows up, and they see you as
Yeah,
being the light
light.
because they don't see that, and then
Yeah.
right away they're gravitating towards you. I mean, that's what this is. Now,
And it's very possible we have a large energy field
yeah, and a large energy
that,
field like Carol Ann. I mean, that's what they were going after with Carol Ann
yeah,
and
yeah,
Poltergeist. I mean, Poltergeist
yeah,
was pretty damn good. It was
yeah,
pretty darn good. You know, the way they displayed that. Another thing,
right,
people
right,
laugh about Star Wars and the Force. Whoever did the research originally for George Lucas knew what they were doing, because
right.
that's exactly the psychic abilities
The
and
force
everything.
is
You know,
with you. In
you can
fact,
see
I've
that.
used that term the last few years, and I'll say to somebody, "Oh, the force is with you. You
Yeah,
cannot
yeah,
fail. You
yeah.
cannot lose." I have a little girl I'm talking to in Seattle. There's a lot of conflict, new job, man, and I told her 4 or 5 times now, "You cannot lose. You are meant
No.
to succeed because the force is with you."
Well, that's the thing, and
And
that's
people
like
go, "Are you joking?" What's it?
But that's what I teach. I mean, I teach that, you're born with it. Maybe at some point in your life you get busy, that goes on the back burner, but it's always there. And for some people, something triggers it to bring it back up, to the forefront.
Yeah,
For others, it just stays dormant. It just stays dormant back there. But
yeah.
for people that it triggers, it's like a shock for them. It's like a shock for their system, because they start seeing things and hearing things, and all this is going on. And that's what I teach. I teach you guys how to deal with that. Anyway, back to the cemetery. One
Okay.
ghost that particularly intrigued me, and I used to think it was hilarious, because this is something I would do if I were unalive.
Okay, okay.
The
If you
one
were
that
a
sits,
resident there,
the one that sits on top of the power pole
oh yeah, yeah. Hmm.
and looks
Hmm.
down on everybody. If I was unalive, that would be my gig. I would find it so funny to sit up there and watch everybody go through, through the cemetery. And I remember going there during the day with my mom back in the old days after I had taken your tour, and always looking up there and thinking, "You're up there. I know you're there. I know you're there, dude." And
And I think that a young man took a picture of that for me, and that's where I was able to see we had a picture of it. Really quick, Lori, if you had a past life, yes, we all have past lives. Self-hypnosis, not always successful. Doesn't mean you have to pay somebody to have hypnosis. But with Shar, she was not a visual person. You may be a
mm-mm,
feeler. So if
mm-hmm,
you were to be quiet and sit somewhere and say, let me have a sensation or a feeling of my past life, you may get a better recall. We're not always going to do that. Now you get a
yeah,
candle and sit in front of a mirror. And I tried this once and I was amazed. I was a Chinese person, a Asian person at one time, a man, and this little scrunched up little face. I went, oh, how about that, right? Um, so anyway,
I was
Lori,
thinking, with this
go
guy
ahead,
inside of
Char.
me, I was thinking. First thing I thought was Whoopi Goldberg in Ghost, and I made the
Yeah, that's
comment the other night in
me.
my
I've had
chat, and
that
I said,
happen.
"I hope he was good looking and not a frog. Otherwise, like she did when she reacted, to have this guy inside of her." So yeah, so we have the guy that sits on top of the telephone pole. He's
Yeah,
there, and you got the guy that's sitting on the side of the grave looking for his wife. He's always waiting for his
the
family.
drunkard, the
Yeah,
man
the
who died of
drunkard guy. Yeah,
alcohol.
we got that guy there. He's
Uh,
there. You got the gal that, now there's a story behind the gal that dances that scared the living daylights out of me.
okay,
Thanks to not realizing the kind of tour I was on, I took my brother-in-law. We went out. It was a history tour, a lantern history tour.
okay.
And after hearing Nancy tell these stories 2 or 3 times in a row, because I had not only shot Nancy when I was in college, we went back and did it again for a newspaper article for Woodland.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so after this Woodland article, my brother-in-law and I go out there. I got my camera, and I decide I'm bored with the tour. We're going through all the history thing,
Yeah,
living
yeah.
history. So I go walking off over there, and I'm thinking about all these ghosts Nancy's talking about. Remember, I get spooked like everybody else. Okay, I get spooked, and I'm walking around. This is me in my early 30s, I think,
You're
and I'm
getting
walking.
spooked. Oh
I'm
God.
walking around the dark, and I'm thinking about all these ghosts. And I'm thinking about the woman in the blue dress,
Oh
the
yeah, the
Christmas one.
dance, the Christmas one. Hmm.
What they didn't tell us was that they were putting reenactors out there at night.
I love
And so I'm walking around out there. They're across the cemetery over by Woolsey, right? They're
it.
clear the
Yeah,
hill over there. And this cemetery is huge. That's why, you guys. That's why we have to do it in like 4 chunks. We did this
huge,
part. We're gonna, you know,
big, big
yeah,
cemetery.
big
Yeah, a
cemetery.
lot of little tiny roads.
Yeah. And so I'm walking around in the dark back there, snapping my little photos, and this woman in blue steps out. from behind this grave.
I
That was the
love
scream. I don't scream, okay? I very seldom scream, okay? And I mean scream. I'm talking high pitch. That was the scream heard all the way to West Sacramento.
Which is a long ways, everybody.
John Betancourt comes running. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. He left the tour, right? To see if something happened to me. Because you can fall in there. I mean, there's ditches and all kinds of stuff, so you got to watch where you're walking. And that just scared the living daylights out of me when she popped up on me, in the dark.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
But this is Nancy's fault for
I,
telling me
I,
where all the ghosts are. My mother, who had abilities as well, she was very good, actually.
oh, she
We
was
would, we,
wonderful.
we were on Nancy's tour, doing the walkthrough. I think we went on her
Uh-huh.
tour like 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
And we get to this point where there used to be a lemon tree.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
before Nancy says anything, my mom goes, I smell lemons. And it was weird because I had my camera, and when I would stand right next to my mother, the camera would stop working. And when I would stand off to the left of my mother, the camera would be fine. And then here comes Nancy. Well, this used to be a hanging tree over here, and blah 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 blah.
Yeah, I was meant.
So it,
Yeah.
yeah, so it all made sense. Now, can you
Uh-huh.
explain something to me? Why would there be a hanging? When that was a hanging tree, was that still a cemetery? Was that a
Yes.
cemetery at that point, or was it not?
Yeah. Yeah, it was. I'm
Why did
not
they
sure
put it?
why. That's a good question. I don't know, but they actually hung somebody there.
Yeah.
And there's more to the story. There is, as you're walking down the aisle, I can visualize the tree here, and then to my left, I see the lemon tree, or there's another tree there. I'm not positive. I just know I remember. So I'm trying to remember. There's so many stories there. I did 6 years, 5 tours a year, and I never repeated a story ever. But we would talk about those other
Yeah.
stories with John Betancourt. He was not a believer at all,
No.
and he needed the money because of the vandalism.
Mhm.
And he said, "Oh, someone mentioned get a medium out there and see these ghosts." And he didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
In fact, he was not rude or callous, but somewhere in there, like, oh God, who are you? And of course, I don't look the part, I was whispering, just. But when I started telling stories, and he was able to verify it, then he wanted to
Mhm.
try me out on all of them. Like,
Mhm.
how many rows are there? Let's see if she can pick up. It's just amazing to me. We have such personalized stories of people in the throes of grieving,
Yeah.
yet I live in a world where I am absolutely convinced we survive from
Yeah.
all the stories and 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 then one day he says, I'm just thinking of this as I'm talking to you. When you enter the gate to the right, where the fence line is, remember it had been another block out. They brought it in and just happened to have the gate. He says, there's 5 stones over there, and they all died at the same time. Why don't you see what you pick up? So I walked over there, and I'm standing. Hopefully, I wasn't standing on somebody, but I'm trying to be respectful. All of a sudden, I'm going, and I'm going, what the fudge? And so I walk to the next step, and I go, okay, guys, what happened? Because they were all men. And they had a theater in town with a balcony. And the
Mm.
girls would come out throwing their dresses like this. Well, up in the top balcony, the men got really carried away and they were all jumping up and down, and it collapsed onto the people below. And so 5 of them that had died were underneath the balcony, but can you imagine 100 men? Wow, wow, wow! Here's the girls and jam. Must have been thrilling. We don't have anything like that now, where people get excited except for the concerts, I guess. And unfortunately, but the energy that created their passing was still there,
Mhm.
which is amazing to me. Like, I didn't see them. I saw
Mhm.
that, and when started making noise and bounce up and down, John Betancourt's eyes got that big. He must have thought, "What is she? Oh my God, she's picking it up how they died."
Yeah.
But and not everybody shows up at the gravesite just so you can be entertained. But the energy of how they pass, like the man who inadvertently created a situation where his son got shot. And when I'm over there, I can see the boy, and I can see him in bed. Remember, this is over 100 years ago, and his knee has been shot off, the cap and everything. And of course, those years they had penicillin. And the father was so grievous. that after the obelisk was put up, excuse me, obelisk was put up, and it was like 8 feet tall, he would lean and go against it and lean. Now, of course, he didn't die standing up. He died of grief, a broken heart,
His
laid him
imprint,
in the
yeah,
ground
was
somewhere.
there.
But his imprint was still there. And then as a spirit man, he never forgave himself.
Hmm.
And so the same story of the salon girl, the in those years they had um, establishment people drink and they'd have the girls come around pretty dresses, but you're supposed to leave them alone. You're not supposed to mess with them. And you'd buy 'em drinks. And this wonderful, beautiful young lady, she was a blonde. Remember, I see pictures. And her grave was right there, and they had a praying angel next to it. And then
I
there was
remember.
a plot on next to it. And I was looking, and all of a sudden I had this terrible pain in my chest, on my right here on my side, and I could feel a blade go in. Well, she rebuffed somebody because she was in love with the doctor, and he was going to take her away, but she wanted to work there for a while longer. And he traveled back and forth. He was in San Francisco. He was going to come get her. Well, he she got murdered right there in the salon, not salon, saloon,
Hmm.
in the saloon. And he just grieved until he died of a broken heart. But in his will, he wanted his heart to be buried with her. And so you have a plot, her plot. He died in San Francisco. They took his heart out. There's a praying angel. And then the plot next to on the other side is buried his heart. He died of a broken heart, and they took his heart and they interred it next to her. What a story! The thing is that I didn't sense her. I sensed the murder of her, and that
Hmm.
could be because when he came to visit that plot, he envisioned and found out the man was executed, the one who stabbed her, and so I couldn't see him, but I could feel the knife in his hand and the shoving. I can almost sense it now between each rib. He went in there between the ribs and killed her. And so you go to a place of going, oh, I don't like doing murders too much because I don't want to feel that. I've been unfortunate enough to be involved in a few, but that is the risk you take. And I could feel that blade going. It was a big one, like a, a butcher knife, like in a kitchen, a cook would use. And so when he went back to San Francisco for his practice, he ended up dying from a broken heart. And so if you go out there, you'll see the plot where his heart is.
Yeah.
A lot of different stories. Hello, everybody.
So
Pamela's in
right
there.
now, what I'm doing, and because we're
And
gonna go, we're thinking about going back Sunday. We're gonna have a picnic over by the fountain because they built that beautiful fountain in the middle. Just
wait a
want to be
minute
in the
now, but this
shade.
is a tribute to John Bettencourt's
Yeah, John
efforts
Betancourt's
to keep,
fountain.
yeah,
I'm trying to
the deer
track down the
fountain.
photos. I finally found uh, my USB that I have all my website stuff on, and the two photos are there. The one of Mayor Woolsey with you, and then the one of what I think is John Betancourt standing there next to us
Oh,
during the day, standing next to Karen. And
hmm.
so I'm going to try and pull those off without messing things up for my website to be put back up. But hopefully, because they're all stuck on there, they're all stuck on that one thing, and so I'm hoping to be able to pull those two off.
I
And I
think
can swear, yeah,
go ahead, go
I
ahead.
can swear that I caught something at the top of that power pole too at one time.
I don't know why they stay in places like that. There was a
Yeah,
young man, I'm not sure if his name was Timothy or something. They took pictures of the pole with the energy up there and a couple other, I don't know. But these stories, if I pause and just remember, at the time he did keep records, but when he passed away, his wife Connie was developing
yeah,
Alzheimer's, and we don't know what happened to all the records.
yeah,
They would have been a wonderful book. The point is, I did 6 years. I made a lot of money for them, five,
right,
6 tours a year, but I was right. He would
yeah,
never have allowed me to go that long. So take my ego and put it over here
yeah,
and go to a place of saying, if she's picking up the stories, like the woman with the three babies buried, or only two on headstone, John found the third baby that had been buried in the street and they moved it without him being posted. I can't make it up. And so that if you can go to a place of accepting that,
mhm,
then my job is done. It's
yeah,
like, this is real. I'm not that clever, everybody. I am an artist, but I was accounting, engineering, then supervisor. I got into this and I'm not flowery and I don't make up, it's like, who can make up a story? like
Mhm.
the heart that's buried next to it, the praying angel, of her being stabbed, and I could feel it go into my right side all the way to almost to her heart. Little
Yeah.
tiny. All right, Shar, we've been out. I wanted anybody want to look up, find me for any reason, do a session. I'm still doing readings. nancymatz.com, Nancy Matz author. And unfortunately, I have had some health issues, and my husband's had some. Kind of like trying to get started. You know, life is life. And I promise we'll be talking about this pretty soon. Shar?
So yeah, so Nancy and I, maybe hey, if you guys are nice, maybe if Nancy's feeling up to it before it gets too hot,
What?
we can get Nancy to come out to city cemetery with us one Sunday or
There's a lot of
something
there's a
to
lot of cemeteries we can go to.
to
Any of
walk
them.
it out there. Yeah, to walk it because it's pretty incredible when
That would be
when
fun. I
there's
haven't been to Sacramento Cemetery
yeah,
in a
yeah.
lot of
To get
years.
Nancy to come out with us. In the meantime,
Hmm.
we're gonna sit down together. She's gonna give me some info, and then not on this visit, but probably the next visit behind that, we will go and check out all these or some of these haunted graves,
Oh
these
yeah,
haunted grave sites.
wonderful.
When we're out there, because like I said, if I got John Betancourt, that was during the day, and you could argue that Karen's got a cigarette in her mouth, so it could be the smoke, but it's Karen's over here, and it's obvious it's not the cigarette's not smoking, and then
It's
there's a
not
big
bellowing
blur.
around you, but I also
No,
feel the
there's
constriction of your throat. So he was inside you.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's kind of crazy. Who's there? Who's
Oh,
down there currently?
Oroville, us Karen. Oroville Cemetery's fun. Oh, oh, there's three cemeteries here in Oroville. Can you believe that? One is, I believe, Jewish, one is general public, and one is Asian. Chinese maybe. I don't know. My husband, my husband came down first because he had some unfortunate heart issues. He had three surgeries. So I finally moved down after a year and a half. My house finally sold on a big house on a mountain. I mean, it takes that one buyer, right? And we were driving around. He's first thing he did was drive me around to all the cemeteries, and I'm looking at the spirit people that are there. I go, oh no, I don't want to look at them. I don't want to. He says, I thought you would like to know, and I go, not really, but that's what
Good.
there
Yeah,
are
it's
three
all
of.
good.
If you lock eyes with them, then you end up taking them home. I care. Like in Boston, I talked to you
Well,
about that.
yeah, they're gonna come home with you.
Yeah,
There's one
Chinese
out
one
in
appreciate. Okay.
near Galt
Oh,
that is in the
Galt.
middle of a
Okay.
farmer field. We train there. I'm not
Uh-huh.
gonna say what it is because we can get access at night to go out there.
Oh. Ooh.
But the issue with this one is, and this is something you brought up. I think you brought it up, or Nancy Bradley brought it up in Georgetown. Probably Nancy Bradley
What?
about the ladies of the evening. How, like in Georgetown, they're not buried in the main cemetery. They're buried
Now that wasn't without Nancy
outside the
Bradley.
fence.
Hmm.
Outside the
Hmm.
fence. Probably Nancy Bradley.
Fallen women, the Christian ladies in town would go, oh
Yeah,
no, got to
yeah,
get those ladies out there. Yeah.
yeah. The only one that was ever buried in a cemetery was Brule or whatever her name was up in Virginia City because the miners paid for it.
Oh, I
That's
don't
the
know
Silver
anything
Dollar
about
Queen. They're the ones that made her thing on the side of the bar. That this huge thing dedication to her, and it's all silver dollars in her skirt. Yeah, she's the only one.
that's that was very common in those years. They
Yeah, yeah.
put their jewelry
But
and
yeah. So
possessions in
anyway,
clothing.
my point of all this is that in the cemetery that's outside of Galt that we train at,
Uh-huh.
when you go in there at night,
Oh
you got people that had cholera. You're going through all that,
yeah.
and there's one particular grave that doesn't like you near it because somebody vandalized it. So we always try to go out there and tidy around it, to make peace and stuff.
Yeah. Mhm.
But you feel like you're being watched from the tree line, defense line, and you're always
That
looking
is
around on your
true.
back.
You
But
know
what it
that feeling
is,
of some on the back of your neck. You go, wait a
yeah,
minute, wait a
and
minute.
you got to have much respect, and you will see shadows. You'll see shadows underneath the tree line. Okay, occasionally.
Mhm.
What it is the Native Americans were not allowed to be buried in the main cemetery. So they are buried on the other side of that fence, just like ladies in the evening in Georgetown. So they're buried on at the around the perimeter. So that's what you've got. So they'll stand as far as the tree line is to watch you, and then the tree line is just beyond what inside where the fence is. That's as far as they come in. But you can see three-dimensional people in the dark standing there watching you, and it's funny to watch when the team goes out because you get the people that are real sarcastic. Oh no, 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 that's not going to happen to me. And you're sitting out there and you're doing your EVP session, and then all of a sudden you see people start. you know, doing this because because they can feel
Are
them
we
watching
alone
them.
out here?
Yeah, but that cemetery is it's a cool place to train because you get good EVPs out there. There's not so much activity, but I mean they're there with you because and then they'll be up in the trees. Aren't you the one that mentioned them being up high? Because that was that with that whole telephone
Well,
pole thing. You mentioned that they will hang out up high too
absolutely.
because they'll hang up in the
They
trees.
can, well, they can be in, yes, they'd be on anything taller.
Yeah,
Absolutely. What makes you think they're going to stand on the ground? I tell
yeah,
people, I said, how I mentioned earlier, how high you'd pass away and 10 years later, someone says, well, how old is that relative standing next to you? They go, well, how high? I used to be an inch and a half taller
yeah.
than I am today. And I think, okay, how do I present myself to my relatives so they know I'm 5'3" now? So it's really hard. Yeah, but they can be anywhere. I've seen
hmm
them on cars. I've seen them on
Oh, my
cars.
mother up in Placerville.
Yeah,
We go out there, because she couldn't go up the steps of this one place, and we were doing a newspaper article. So I
yep,
always
yep.
got her snacks, and when somebody always was sitting with her. We always had one of the team. Somebody would volunteer,
This is fun, everybody.
so she was
I
never
love your
alone.
mother.
And I go out there, and we were switching shifts to see who was going to
Uh-huh.
sit with her. So she was about 2 minutes by herself. I go out there, and she's talking to somebody, and she's like this in the car, and I'm like, who are you talking to? And my mother, she's old school, 85, so no Asian, no none of this. Okay, so don't take offense. There's Chinamen. There's Chinamen sitting on the hood of the car. they're talking to me, But
Yeah.
she would talk to them like the one house we did up in Auburn, well, Folsom, towards Folsom, El Dorado Hills, and she was talking to a Native American. Women were coming up to her and talking to her in the driveway and stuff, and she was having conversations with them. My mom was a trip. She was very good, and and she would tell me like we were in this house in the Bay Area, and there was this thing that was coming over from the park. There was like a gangbanger park across the way, and it would come in. The ghosts would come into the house through this
Mhm.
mirror
Yeah.
that was at the
Yeah.
top of the stairs, and we're trying to chase this thing down, but it's running away from us. So my mother
Mhm.
finally goes, "It's there. You're missing it. It's got a tail. It's running away from you guys right now. It's off to your left." So she's telling us. So I mean, my mother, and then you take her into a haunted building like Murphy's Hotel or something, and like one time Sharon got really upset because we're staying at the hotel overnight, and they're coming from the hotel, right? You know how haunted the
Yeah.
hotel is. They're coming across that parking lot to the newer part of the hotel to see my mother.
Yeah. Yeah. I
So
know who that. Listen to
and
them.
my mom's having conversations. That's why when she used to go to the doctor, and they'd say, "Is she hallucinating?" And I look at them and go, "Oh, well, let me tell you what I do." And then you can make a decision from there whether she's hallucinating or not, because
Right, right.
she was very good. I mean, I could put her out just like taking Nancy out to a haunted location. I could take mom out. Mom would pick them out right away. But yeah, anyway,
Hmm.
that was my first experience ever. Like I said, I've been what I call goosed by a ghost, where they run through me, and like I said, I could feel my
Yep,
stomach
yep,
flip, and I know it's
yep.
dead. And then I'm down for like 4 hours. I sleep, just constant. This was the very first time that it was a Whoopi Goldberg thing, like where he got in there and he did not want to let go, and it was
Yeah.
like and and with my heart problems, like I automatically thought, oh my God, it's my heart, something's gone wrong, and I'm out here walking around in the dust and stuff. It's been too much for me to be out here, and like I said, it took me a day and a half to figure it out, what had
Yeah.
happened, especially after sleeping 16 hours. So it was an experience. I won't forget it. But the next time, like if we go out there this weekend, like we're planning, I'll be more prepared. I'll be in the right mindset instead of going out there like I used to and not worrying about it. I have to worry about it now because of the tarot.
Yeah.
I have no
Mhm.
choice. And every night when I'm doing my tarot, you guys don't realize this either. Before I physically go on to read the tarot, I'm talking to my spirit guides. I do a small meditation. I'm talking to my relatives. I'm talking to my spirit guides. I'm also asking for protection that when I completely open up to keep the negatives out, and I'm
Yeah.
also asking for protection that when I close up to keep the negatives out because they can sneak in at the very end and then you're stuck. So that's what I should have done when I was out of the cemetery, but I
Mm.
didn't do it. So hindsight,
Sometimes you just don't remember. I
yeah,
told you I live with a lot of ghosts in my house
yeah,
right now. And
yeah,
the other day I had experience of an animal. I might have shared that with you. I sit with my feet up. I like sitting. I don't like my legs hanging over, short
Yeah.
legs. So I put on a stool, and all of a sudden, what Joe, the bigger cat, he purposely goes and hits the bottom of my calves, and
Mhm.
if I pants on it, they ruffle. Well, it happened again, and I'm reaching out trying to find his big furry body, and there's nothing there. And I stood up, and he's on his perch over there, and the other one is in the window, and I'm going, okay. Someone had a dog prior to us being in here.
We're gonna have a chat about that one night too, because people ask me
Yeah.
about animals. I got some tarot
Oh.
cards. I haven't used
Uh-huh.
them yet, and they're dog tarot cards.
Oh, fun.
So we're
How
gonna have a
fun.
night where I do readings on your pets, and I'm trying to get some cat ones right
Why
now,
not?
so we can have dog and cat tarot cards to do readings on what your pet. I don't want to know what mine's thinking. I already know what mine thinks. She rolls her eyes. I can tell you already what she's gonna be. But I mean,
Oh, I thought you
you know,
meant spirit dogs and cats.
yeah,
You want to read the living
I'm
one.
talking spirit
Oh,
dogs
okay.
and people. Do read. I know what it's gonna morph into. I know how humanity is, so I know what it's gonna morph into. Do a reading on my dog Fido. Okay, I can do that. Let's try this and see what Fido's thinking. So um, we'll be doing that at some
Why
point
not? I
down the road.
I've been on radio shows and did animal readings, and
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
really fun.
And I'm
Animals,
being
as with
told,
children, are
you
very
know,
truthful.
that I should just not use the cards anymore and just go for it. And I'm just like, no, I'm not. I'm not that comfortable yet with doing
I think
with
there's
doing.
something to be said I can't in the room here, and I've talked about the artwork
Yeah,
and the visuals. I've actually, people don't know 35 years, but the first 15 years I worked for Spirit of Grace Church, and I'm a
right.
minister, a Universal Christ of the Master, but I'm a Church of the Living God, Sedona, Arizona minister. And I was doing these events, and if I was doing a psychic fair, people would walk around and want tarot. And one time
Mhm.
someone sat down and gave, I do facts, and
Mhm.
sometimes it's not easy to be flowery. And they said, well, I don't have anything to look at. I said, what do you want
Mhm.
to look at? I'm giving you the facts. You want the answers. They wanted to look at something. And I
Yeah.
find it fascinating. I've just really got into it and been learning as much as I can
Yeah.
because I would like to start doing the readings that way. But yet
Yeah.
I get the answers and then lay the cards.
Well, yeah.
Someone asks me a question, I'm already got the answer before I even do any cards. So
Yeah. 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 So I
it's
mean,
beautiful, everybody.
yeah. Yeah. I got a deck right here that's gorgeous. I can't memorize the cards. Like I try to tell people when they get snotty about it because I've had a couple people
It's
come
not
on and
that.
go, "Why are you reading off the card?" Okay, let's go back. Congestive heart failure. Okay, my oxygen in my brain. Okay,
You can only
when
use it so long. You've been,
yeah,
you know.
when I was younger, I could memorize whole books and then read and then talk back to chapter by chapter. It's not happening now. So I'm reading, I'm reading with these cards too, and it's where it works. So it works for me. So it's just one of those things. But I'm starting to get to where I'm memorizing some of the cards. I know what they are now. There's no way there's going to be. I'm going to memorize 72 cards. I mean, that's out of the
Yeah.
question. But at least 10 or 20 of them now. I've gotten to the point where I have it memorized. So it's coming along. It's a work in progress. I enjoy it. It's fun, and I put a
Mhm.
lot of my personality into the show. It's really high energy. So I'm excited to be doing
We
it.
need to get going here too.
I know. I got to decide too whether we're going to do it in here because I'm starting to feel hot right now. The heat's finally settling back here, so I'm starting to sweat in here. So I'm trying to make a decision whether or not I'm going to go in here or whether I'm going to go in there. I have to stick my head in there and see what it's like in there because I am starting to feel it. But the lights are a lot warmer in there too because they're bigger. The spotlights.
Well, you have some equipment on if you turn it off and maybe
Yeah.
air it out a little bit with the fan
Yeah.
on.
So I don't know. I'll have to figure this what I'm going to
Okay,
do. So,
everybody.
all right. Well, guys, I got to go. I'll see you guys around 7:15, about a half hour over there. Well, in one of these two studios. I might have the AC on in here. Um, and we'll get to with our nightly tarot read, three-card read, past, present, future for everybody that would like to join us. It's a free reading and it's a general reading, so don't expect me to go in depth about your love life, in depth about your love life and your in your health. And if you do have a health reading that you want or anything like that, I think those are private information. I don't like airing them to the public. So that would end up being a private reading with me, okay? Because I don't think it's right to air it, to air stuff like that out into or your legal problems, right? I don't want to air that out in the public. Public doesn't need to
Okay,
know.
bye, everybody.
Okay,
Have a
everybody,
nice, have a
have a
nice
great one.
weekend. Keep cool.
Thank you,
Weather
Karen.
stays
I
warm.
haven't seen Karen Rothstein in a while. Thank you, Karen.
Yeah.
All right, guys. See you guys in a bit. Have a good
Bye
one.
bye, everybody.
There it goes.